Today's guest is John Kenney, CEO of Cotney Consulting Group. John, thank you for coming back on the show.
My pleasure. It's always great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I mean, for those that don't know, John, you have a extensive roofing background, and if you haven't seen it already, definitely go in to watch that original episode with John. But you've pretty much had every role in the roofing industry.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times when I get introduced and I'm speaking at events, the easiest way to do it without going into a whole list is went from the rooftop to the boardroom. So you're correct. I started out as a union roofer in a family business, and I worked all the way up to being COO, and then finally CEO of my own business. So we've covered a lot of aspects. I'm a big believer in before you can talk to people, you really need to walk the walk. So, and I love roofing. So it was never a challenge in the industry for me to do different parts of the job.
Yeah. And what I always like about you is you're always thinking growth mindset. How do I get better? How do I evolve? So tell me, what has changed? What have you learned your interest over the last couple of years?
Yeah. So honestly, my main focus, and I've always had a love for this anyways, and to kind of put it in perspective, when I was going through the ranks and as I was coming up through the industry, there was never any assistance. We always did very well. Even when I first came in, you could get training how to put a roof system down. Manufacturers always did that, especially as they come out with new products. But how everything else works in the roofing industry, I could never get any help with that, right? It was kind of like you got to do it. You learn it, you make your mistakes, you move on, you make another mistake, you don't make it again, you keep climbing up that way. So I thought, wow, what about a need for, I love to educate, and I started mentoring within my own forces as we're going up. And I'm like, wow, this really works. If you can take the time and rather throw somebody off the edge of the boat and say, here, go try to swim, actually be able to work with them through the journey of their career, things came out a lot better. It was a shorter learning curve, and the whole process was better, even for the company, profitability wise. And the person that I was working with had a much better experience, and the attrition rate dropped away as far as that goes on the overall man. So that's just kind of the background. So where I've changed going into current is I've developed that educational process within what I'm doing now on the consulting side. And I actually have developed a few different ones. And basically, to break them down, is estimating, project management, superintendent, foreman, different levels of training within that. And why did I do that? Because I couldn't find anything out there that was what we do in the industry specific. I'm not saying there's not other trainings that you could go take, but how do you put it in the experience of what actually happens within the roofing industry, roofing company, the roofing experience? Because that's really what matters. If I go take a project management course, let's say that's a general project management course, sure, it might be great that I'm learning about software project management and all the other projects that you would manage, but all I really care about is roofing specific. So that's where I think my journey has changed or morphed into what I'm doing now, is that I've realized that I can bring more good to the people that are in the industry by offering these types of training. And I've had a great response to it. And I always have believed, and I may even said this on the first one, if anybody's listened to it since, and it's a long time ago, I've really always had this thought process, and I've learned this from other people, is that you will always get what you want when you help other people get what they need, right? And what I mean by that is really, what do I want out of this? I want to feel good and be able to know that I'm giving the knowledge that I've gained over my full career, which is now getting closer to 50 years and doing it in roofing, to be able to pass that knowledge on so that somebody else's journey can be shortened and be successful and stay in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's wonderful. And when I see you, because you're at every conference, you're
Yeah.
speaking, you sit on various associations and boards. You write articles. You've helped us out a bunch. Um, what is your time management? What is your workflow? How do you get that all in?
Well, so organizational skills were something that I had to really work on throughout my career because when you get into roofing, I think anybody out there that started in the field and works up, you really understand that as organized as you want to be, there's always more balls coming at you than you could possibly hit. So you have to learn how what I call section organization. So what I mean by that is there's only so many hours in a day. So I don't get down to the deep task estimating where I write it down, or time organization where I write it down and say, okay, from now to now I'm doing this, then I'm moving to that. I break my day into blocks. And from my days into blocks, my weeks into blocks, but I consistently try to do the same things over and over. And of course, then we have to allow time for the travel, the training, the live sessions, the speaking, and then you have to work everything around that. So, organization, I would say the workflows is I plan out all of my week, usually on Sunday. That works very well for me. I will close Friday out. Before I close Friday out, I will make sure and review, do I have anything open that I didn't get to? So I don't even want to think about it when Friday night comes. I want to write it down, or however you want to do it. And then when that's done, Sunday's real easy. I plan out my week and say, okay, well, I have these 3 items that must get done. I have one item that still can be on the back burner because it may be something that's going to happen down the road in the future. And then I plan out. By doing this, I have relieved so much stress that you would normally face. Because what I used to remember when I was roofing and running projects, and even as a COO and all the different positions I've worked through, is if I didn't, when I picked this up, if I didn't do this, I would wake up in the middle of the night wondering, oh, did I get it done? Did I forget about it? Or the next morning. So if I even have a good idea any day of the week, or I miss something during the day, I just write it down. I know where it is. And then that way I can clear my mind and be able to move on to the personal portion of my life.
Yeah. So basically Sunday is where all the collection ideas, and then until then, you don't chase after it. You have a plan for the week and you try to execute against that. But every little idea that you get, you put in a bucket for Sunday.
Correct. That's a great way of putting it. That's exactly correct.
That's great because it kind of frees your mind. Because sometimes, as entrepreneurs or business people, we want to take action on something, but maybe you get pulled away from something that was higher priority.
Yeah, there's always going to be, they always heard the term 80-20 list, and it is true. You might be lucky if you can get 80% of everything you planned out to do in a week. And I'm not even sure 80's accurate. It could be 70-30, depending on what happens during the week. But the important thing is what I like to call anything that's hot or fire items, right? The must get done. You have to make sure they get done. Then you've got the next one, which needs to be done, but there's a smaller time limit on them. They may move down the chain a little bit. That's what the planning is for on top of that. And then, of course, you have the must, the not must, but the want tos, right? Those are the ones that kind of sit in a bucket up here and move along, which is okay till they need to fit in to the process. Because you cannot do anything. Any entrepreneur, any business person, I don't even care if you're a foreman, no matter what position you're in, there's going to be things you just can't get done. And if you let that eat at you, it's going to drive you insane.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, for sure. There's always another thing to do. Now, for you, going from an operator and I guess, from my perspective, you've kind of transformed yourself digitally in many ways, right? Your education is delivered online. You had multiple podcasts. You have you create content. I mean, what sort of things have you had to do or you've learned as you've sort of gone more digital or more, like you said, education module based?
Well, definitely, it was a transition. There's no doubt about it. I never, at any point in my career, on the roofing side, running in operations, thought that this is the direction I was going to go in. It's one thing to be able to, even if you go into consulting, to be able to work on things, but writing articles, doing podcasts, and videos and training and writing all the options, like you said, and that takes absolute planning and commitment. So when those things are done, and I'm going to give you credit for this. You and I had a chat a long time ago when I first started doing this, and you really worked with me and gave me the idea of how I can plan out social calendars, how I'm going to write it, and lay it all out in a block grid, which then fit in to the time system management I just said. So that's how I keep up with it. I actually plan out on social, on anything like articles, social media. Articles I plan out 6 months ahead. I try to have it all planned out so when the time comes, I can sit down and write it, and it has a sequence. So you'll, if you follow me in any of the magazines or on Roofer's Coffee Shop or on your blog where you see it, it's always a systematic approach. So it makes sense for the reader that, oh, well, next month we're going to learn this, and I can go back and find this. It's not just all mismatched coming out of the sky, because I don't, that makes no sense to me. I wouldn't want to read that. So I try to do that. And the same way with the trainings that I've written, they've taken the experience of, if I'm going to do this job new in the industry, where do I start and where do I need to finish? And then I fill it all in between there.
Yeah, I mean, all the credit for you. I mean, like you explained the estimating side and how you've gotten to five, upcoming six and seven modules, but they all kind of line up and sequence. So you really, kind of visualize the steps. I think sometimes, it pays to like try something early, but I think when you commit to something, you really commit to that block of area, and it definitely helps you, sort of progress quickly as you do more of them because each one leverages off the one before.
Yeah, that's exactly a great explanation. I stay focused. I've, as I sometimes say, I've picked my lane. I have a passion for it. There's a need for it, and I enjoy doing it. So you're not going to all of a sudden tomorrow wake up and find out that I'm out trying to do something that's like, let's go to the moon or space aeronautics or anything like that. I'm sticking with what I know best and what I can do the most good for. So I stay in a lane.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I'm always amazed at your constant sort of curiosity and use of technology. Because I think sometimes when we get and I'm starting to feel that a little bit older, so the time it takes to learn something new and stuff, sometimes you slow down a little. But John, I don't think you've slowed down at all. You're Every time I see you, you're digging into AI and trying new things and stuff like that. Is that something you've always had, or have you really like deliberately surrounded yourself with certain types of people, or sort of worked on that mindset?
Well, that actually came up real early in my career. In the 80s, so, when I first got in, there no such thing as computers. In the 80s, even though they were working on them earlier, they became more mainstream, right? Personal computers, as we know today, PCs. So one of the things that, and my wife and I had this conversation, and I was only in my 30s then. I said to her, if I don't learn all this new technology that's coming out, I said I'm going to be a dinosaur before I even realize it. And she's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Well," I said, 10 years ago, the only thing we did was built up roofing. I said, then single plies became mainstream, and I knew then I had to learn all about single plies when I was out in the field. So that was a transition, because if I didn't, I would have been a dinosaur sticking with one system. So I did embrace it, and I went and took every course that I could possibly take on it, even AutoCAD in the mid 80s. And that was really DOS AutoCAD, was pretty basic as it is, but it worked. But I always had that mindset is our society, the country, the world, however you want to look at it, is never going to step backwards. As much as we may sit and say, "Oh, remember the good old days," or I wish we could go backwards, and everybody has a simpler time in their mind. That's just part of your own evolution. But the world, you're never going to cheat it at a time. It gets faster, quicker, better, more efficient, and that's why I stay up with it. And I really think what you're talking about, like AI and all robotics, I really have been big into that, watching it. That is the next evolution that's going to hit, or it's starting, but it's right at the forefront. So I'm a firm believer that everyone needs to keep up with this, and that's why I do the articles and stuff like that on it, just to get that information out there so you're aware of what's coming.
I guess at the same time you're creating the articles, you're learning too.
Oh, I learn every day. That's one thing that I will honestly say to everyone out there listening is, when you say I'm at the top of my game at whatever you're doing, that's when you fall off the mountain. You're never ever at the top of your game. You may be in the top percentage of the playing field, but you have to learn, you have to grow, you have to continue to build every single day.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned your wife earlier. You guys are quite a great team. Tell me how you guys complement each other.
Well, I will tell you what, it'd be very difficult to do what I do without my wife, as she travels with me everywhere. She handles all the logistical stuff for me. She handles all the, whatever you want to call it, executive assistant stuff. If we're going to do a speaking event somewhere, we're going to do a training live, 3 or 4 day training somewhere, I don't have to worry about everything. I know they're going to be ready. They're going to have it set up. Also, during a lot of the training we do, we give knowledge examinations, and we do actual, I don't want to say tests, or more practice stuff. My wife grades all that. She goes through it, does all that, so I can continue to teach. So yeah, high kudos to my wife. I could not be successful what I'm doing if I didn't have her on my team.
Yeah, awesome. You talked about some technology related stuff. Related to the roofing industry, what are some of the other interesting things you see in the industry? Whether it's shout outs to certain people doing great things, or technologies, or trends, or anything like that. What are you curious about or excited about?
Well, I think for sure I'll always give a shout out to the roofing associations. I don't think enough people realize the benefit of being involved, not just paying your dues and joining and getting a magazine or updates in a newsletter, to actually go to these events that they put on and actually talk to people, and to be able to, and if you have time, get involved. I've been on boards and everything else for associations for as long as I could remember, and it was never about what can I get out of it. It was about what can I help to do in order, and you always going to get something out of it. Always. You will always grow. People are so willing to share knowledge. So that's number one. Shout out to that. And it doesn't matter just in the US, because I'm involved with the Canadian Association. I'm involved with the UK and Europe. So they're all, roofing is kind of a great binder around the world. We're all on the same team and we're rowing in the same direction. RT3. I'm a board member and I've been a member of RT3 since its began. If you want to learn more about technology and what's going on, I really think you should join. There's always events and there's things going on, and there's things you're going to see and you're going to be wowed. And this is not an organization because they sponsor anything, or they're behind any technology. The whole purpose of RT3 Roofing Technology Think Tank is to get the information out to the roofing industry. That's it. National Women in Roofing. I'm on the board of directors there. I have to give a shout out to them as well, because they're constantly doing education events, mentoring, and they do a lot of great work. And I mean, as far as, if I have a moment, as far as some of the technologies, I really would like to bring the attention to robotics, and how that's going to work in conjunction with AI. So a lot of people are like, robotics, they're maybe 10, 15 years off. No, I think you're going to see robotics be about 3 years away from actually being to an important part of what we do in the industry. I've seen through RT3 and other organizations test examples of this, and there's right now robots. I think the most interesting one, I'll leave it with this story on the robotics. The construction, or the concrete industry, as we know, is a heavy labor industry. They're facing labor problems the same as everybody else. So they started noticing a shrink in their sales throughout the entire industry because you just can't get the labor force. They invested heavily into robotics. And now they've did a study, which I thought was so interesting. I watched this on video, where it would take a journeyman crew of 12 people to install X amount of whatever the brick they were laying in the day. They did this with a mixer, which was almost like 3D printing, that did the mortar out. They did it with 2 robots laying the brick, and they did it with one person overseeing the whole operation machines. So that, and they did this actually, not just that they did the same amount as a 12-person crew, but the quality control was so much better. So let's face it, it's coming. So I think we all need to be prepared for it. It's not going to replace the blue collar worker. There's not enough workers out there. This is going to be and accent in conjunction with it to enhance what we're doing. So don't be afraid of it. Be welcome to it.
Wonderful. Well, John, thanks for sharing. When I talk to you, I always learn something. So I appreciate you coming back on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. It's great. Always love to be here.